Hi, my name is David Summerfleck, and I'm the owner and chief web designer for AffordableWebsitesDenver.com. And that is a Denver, Colorado WordPress web design and WordPress training company. And I really love WordPress and I love web design. The amount of creative expression that you can really put into it, and you can really elevate it to an art form if you really try to and you really want to. And all that being said, this time around I wanted to talk very briefly on the matter of cost, because it's something I get a lot of questions about, and is, a big issue among website developers and among the potential clients as well, as you might imagine. And the biggest issue from the developer's standpoint is, how do I make a living competing against all these free websites where you click and drag into the template, and it's either free or it's $5 a month. How do you compete against that? And the fact that there are so many people struggling in less developed countries other than the United States and Canada, who will literally work for very, very low wages because they really have to. And you see that a lot on websites like Elance and Odesk and a lot of these other websites that are fine if you're hiring, but they have pros and cons. I mean, you're going to get, what kind of quality work are you going to get? And is it necessarily ethical to say, hey, I'm so excited, I just paid someone in China, $100 for a website, and well, that's great. You paid much, much lower than you would anyone ever in the United States, but look at what you're also encouraging in the system that you're getting into. So there's pros and cons in both ways. But I wanted to talk about this price from the perspective of living in the United States. If you want to outsource work to other countries, the biggest ones are Russia, China, and what else? Russia, China, and India. And if you're outsourcing the work, yes, you can get a professionally developed website. And I use that term loosely because I don't know what kind of quality you're going to get. You could get a website anywhere from $10 to maybe 200, but probably much, much less. And the reason for that is because the people are competing against each other for these positions. And in many cases, they're competing against workers in our own country, in the United States, and they may even live down the street from you. And if you live in the United States, you can't win for losing, like they used to say in the old Clint Eastwood movie. You can't compete against someone in another country who will work for $20 or whatever. But by the same token, as fun as that may be for the person outsourcing the work, they get so excited because look at what a great deal I have now. But also, I've seen the quality of the work, and in many occasions the websites don't work, or they look like brochures or pamphlets from 20 years ago, or they look like an old PowerPoint presentation. And if that's good enough for you, then fine. It's not good enough for me, and it's not good enough for my clients. But you're going to get what you pay for. And if you need help down the road, you probably won't be able to get a hold of that person. And if there's a dispute or an issue or misunderstanding or language barrier, you're on your own. And in many cases that does happen. In fact, that's usually what happens based on what I hear from people. As much as I love people from all other countries, you want to be able to communicate openly and easily with the people you work with, especially if this is a serious professional product and an extension of an existing business. You really want to do your best job. So, it's just like when I would buy a men's suit. You can get a very nice suit at some stores for $50. It may look great. But it's not going to last very long. One stain and it falls apart. But anyway, to focus on the United States of America, what are you going to pay? And in a previous video, I said that the very lowest you could probably expect, if you want a website like this one here, this is a website I have called Denver Marketing Success. and it's basically an extension of my other website, affordable websites denver.com. And my Wi-Fi is a little bit slow, so let's refresh that. So this is my primary business website, and denvermarketingsuccess.com right here is basically a mirror site just to show off what I can do, and also to compartmentalize my brochure or my portfolio a little bit more. So what can you expect to pay for a website like this? Well, it really depends on what you want done. It's so hard to have set prices in a one-size-fits-all package because every client wants something different. You may want e-commerce with 20 different items and sizes and coupon codes and what have you, while another person may be happy with a 4 or 5 page website and they trust you to do what you think is best with it. Another person may want you to control the color scheme down to the most minute detail and be very controlling, where someone else may be very relaxed and just, hey, I know exactly what I want, and just do your best to achieve this, and we're going to be very happy. So you don't know. But if it's 4 or 5 static pages, the typical price is going to be around $500, depending on where you live and the market. So typically you can expect to pay at the very lowest $100 per page for your website. And now if you want to add more different widgets, and what are widgets? Widgets are basically things like this over here, the search box. There are things like this, which is your portfolio samples, getting social, subscribe to my blog, archives. All of these need to be configured and set. Okay, if you want different fonts, a lot of people want different fonts, and the most minute thing you can think of. So it really depends on what you want done. But if it's 4 or 5 basic pages and everything's pretty simple, then $400 to $500 for a 4 to 5 page website is very low by most industry standards. Now, by the same token, I've consulted with a company that had a 20-page website with sub-pages and subcategories. So it evened out to many more pages than just 4 or 5. And so we're talking around 20 pages, including a blog. They wanted training in WordPress as well. They wanted a portfolio. They wanted e-commerce with at least 30 to 40 items and coupon codes and so on. So for that, I quoted a price of $3,000, which I thought was very reasonable, because you're considering the number of pages, but you're also thinking about the e-commerce and the hours of work that are going to go into that, and then troubleshooting it and testing everything, and then doing the training and how many hours that's going to take. And then there's going to be hours that you won't be compensated for reading through emails and editing documents and then meeting with people and returning calls and so on. So there's so many other things involved that go beneath the surface than what most people think about when they just think of some nerdy guy just clicking buttons and then they're miraculously done. It just doesn't work like that, despite what it may seem. Even here, it looks like a simple enough website, but it has pages, it has sub-pages. Here I had to put time into the changing images. Where do I find the images? How do I make sure that they're not copyright protected, and so on. So there's so many different things. So moderately priced is around $500. And then if you're a larger company and you want much more done, and especially if you want training and troubleshooting down the road, then that's on average around $3,000. So it's going to be between those two. And one other point that I wanted to bring up is because so many people, there seems to be this disconnect between the public and so-called techies who make the websites. A lot of clients I've heard say, well, how do you pay? How should I pay you? How does that work? Everybody has something different, and I just don't know. And it may be true that a lot of web developers have different payment plans, but by the same token, you can go to a mechanic and he'll want you to pay for everything up front. Others will want 50% up front, and so on. The doctor whom I've been seeing for many years now, a very, very nice doctor, he still will not see me unless they make sure that I have some kind of a payment method set up first. So, every professional is different. When I go to my dentist, he expects payment up front first before we go in, and then he does the work. But I also trust him very, very much. But it just varies. But as far as web development is concerned, at the very least, you should always expect for 50% to be paid up front. And the reason for that is because in many, many cases, website development, however busy the client may be, it is still a collaborative process where you need to be able to get in touch with the client to check and approve mock-up designs, to get content for pages, and to check information. So a lot of times the client will say, I just want you to take care of everything for me. I'm so busy, I don't know what to do. I don't want to get involved in all of this, but I know I need it. That's fine. But the developer is still going to need to get information from you and get you to approve designs. That's how it should be. So in many cases, people new to website development would just say, there's a clash of personalities, what have you, I'm just going to leave. Well, the developer, meanwhile, has spent all this time and effort and all these hours producing what he or she thinks is going to be a beautiful website for you, and now what do they do with it? So they should always ask for 50% up front. And what I do is I ask for the 50-40-10 rule. 50% up front, 40% once I deliver to you a functioning, working website. And you have all the information and I'm ready to hand it off to you. So 50%, 40%, and then 10% for final completion, working on any kind of text, making the final tweaks and editing and so on. Just the finishing touches to make sure that everything is perfect. And at that point, right before we're ready to take it live, we withdraw the coming soon page, and voila, this beautiful website appears that everything works perfectly because we've completed all the testing and gone through all the different processes and looked at it on all the different browsers and in the iPhone and made sure that everything works perfectly. So the 50-40-10% rule is personally how I prefer it at affordablewebsitesdenver.com. Other people do it differently. But that's what I find is the most convenient, and also it takes it easier on the client in terms of not having to pay 50% up front and then 50% at the end. So I think that's the best way. And again, affordablewebsitesdenver.com, WordPress website development and WordPress training in lovely Denver, Colorado. And if anyone has any questions at all, please do not hesitate to visit us online and just visit my contact page, and I'd be happy to help clarify anything that may be of concern. And I wish everybody the best, and take care until the next time. Bye.